What do you do if you want more power than anything that you can buy at the dealership? Well, if you're these guys, you invent aftermarket tuning, of course, from bolt-on turbo kits for Skylines in the 70s to full carbon fiber Altezzas that I had on a poster on my wall in high school. The original JDM Mobile Baby Company.
Oh, I love the smell of Power Baby in the morning.
This is everything you need to know to get up to speed on HKS. Big old thanks to Keeps for sponsoring this episode. I know right now I've got these luscious locks, but for some dudes my age, that's not always the case. In fact, 2 out of 3 of you guys watching will have some sort of male pattern baldness by the time you are 35. But good news, Keeps makes it easy to prevent hair loss. You don't even have to go to a freaking doctor anymore. Thanks to Keeps, you can visit a doctor online and get hair loss medication delivered right to your freaking door. And if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/up-to-speed 50 or click the link in the description below to receive 50% off of your first order. That's keeps.com/up-to-speed50. Today, we're going to find out why these 3 letters are on more sick race cars and project builds than any other tuner, how they basically invented aftermarket tuning, and meet the legend responsible for it all. Chapter 1, Fuji Milk. HKS headquarters sits the base of Mount Fuji, and that's where they've lived ever since they started operations in 1973. The story starts with a young man by the name of Hiroyuki Hasegawa. Now, Hiroyuki was working for Yamaha as an engineer in the early 1970s when he was like, I freaking love race cars and I love engines, and they make pretty good stuff here at Yamaha, but I'm pretty sure that I can make a better engine if I just freaking do it myself. And so Hiroyuki left Yamaha and teamed up with his good friend Goichi Kitagawa to do just that. They were able to secure some funding from a company called Sigma Automotive, and thus HKS was born. H for Hasegawa, K for Kitagawa, and S for Sigma. They bought an old milk shed on the base of Mount Fuji and set up shop. How friggin' cool is that? That's literally Nolan's cream dream. HKS had an innovative idea: build high-performance aftermarket engines and engine parts that weren't offered by the original manufacturer. But they didn't want to just make a fast engine. Hiroyuki's end goal was to make the #1 racing engine in the entire world. If HKS could pull it off, they could make a name for themselves and maybe even change the world of racing. Building an engine from the ground up is expensive. They didn't have enough funding to put it into production. So they started developing the next best thing: a turbo. Chapter 2, the birth of the turbo era. In July of 1974, just under a year after the company was established, the first HKS aftermarket turbo came out, the FET, the FET. This whooshy boy was made specifically for the Nissan L20 engine in a little car called the Ken Mary Skyline. If you're a fan of the Skyline, check out the 2 episodes of Up to Speed that we made about it. I'll put a link in the description below. I cry at the end. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell for your chance to see me weep. Anyway, ever since the Skyline debuted, it was a favorite tuning car for young car enthusiasts. And now they could easily install this kit that significantly bumped up the power, baby. A stock Ken Mary Skyline made 114 horsepower, but with the HKS kit on it, the engine made 158 buff horsepower. That's an increase of 40%. A 40% increase in power from one aftermarket part nowadays is relatively unthinkable. HKS's timing couldn't have been any better. The company debuted their first turbo kit just as the gas crisis was starting to wane. In other parts of the world, big cars with big engines were suffering due to environmental restrictions. Car owners were looking for a way to get more power, baby, from smaller engines. Now, the world's first aftermarket turbocharger kit for a passenger car was a huge success, but like most great engineers, Hiroyuki and Goichi saw room for improvement, and they looked to an unlikely source for inspiration. It was actually American manufacturers who were the first to put turbos in production vehicles. The Chevy Corvair Monza and the Oldsmobile Jetfire. Our boys over at HKS got their milky little hands on one of these American-made turbos and took it apart. They used it as a model for their next two releases. Turbo kits for Celica's 18RG engine and an upgraded version for the L20 in the Skyline. When these kits came out in 1977, HKS was known as the bolt-on turbocharger brand, and their reputation was growing, boy. In 1981, HKS USA was established. Now, who says we don't get any of the cool stuff?
You do in literally almost every friggin' video.
I don't say it all the time.
I'm just saying, you are literally the guy who says we don't get any cool stuff.
No, I don't.
There's a video every day on Donut, and I'd be surprised if they don't mention it in every single video. It's kind of a tenet of the company.
Dude, shut up.
You made a whole episode of the D-List about it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I did do that.
Maybe this would be a better conversation for offline. You have a video to do.
At the start of the 1980s, things like fuel injection and other electronically controlled technology started becoming mainstream. Now, HKS saw the way the industry was moving and developed electronic control devices. Some of the most popular devices they made were the turbo timer to keep your oil from ruining your turbo and the electronic valve control. Now, the tuning market is a bajillion-dollar industry, but back then, this stuff was brand spanking new. Now, HKS clearly understood the place they now occupied in the aftermarket. And like any good business, they capitalized on it. But they never forgot what they had initial D set out to do. Build the best race engine in the world. Chapter 3, keep it 300, baby. A brand new scene was forming in Japan in the early 80s. Illicit, high-speed runs were all the rage. We cover a lot of it in our episode of Past Gas Podcast on the Midnight Club. All the tuning shops in Japan were battling to be the first team to hit 300 kilometers per hour. Speed running was incredibly dangerous. As Daijiro Inada, a speedrun driver that would later go on to start Option Magazine, said, "I was risking my life while the people told me that the car isn't fast because Dai is scared to hit the gas pedal. In reality, I was on the gas like I had a death wish." Cool! What a cool freaking quote. He's super bad, and I'm pretty sure that they didn't let him in the Midnight Club. The first tuner to breach the 300 kph barrier was ABR, short for Air Breathing Research. ABR hit 307.69 in their highly modified De Tomaso Pantera at the Yatabe high-speed testing circuit in 1981. Now, although this was a great achievement and it was made possible by Japanese tuners, it wasn't a Japanese car. The record for breaking 300 in a JDM car was still up for grabs. So HKS threw their hat into the ring and began developing a highly modified Celica XX called the M300. HKS tuned the 5MG engine in the Celica XX, which outside of Japan was known as the, is it Supra?
Supra.
Supra.
It's Supra.
It's
freaking Supra. Supra.
Supra. Oh, freaking finally, I thought he was never gonna get it. So that means, in addition to being one of the first Skyline tuners, HKS can add original Supra tuner to their resume. Are you guys starting to understand why their sticker is so freaking famous? They stripped weight off the body of the Celica, dropped 2 HKS spinning boys in it, added a triple carb and some of their control units into the mix. The exact specs of this car are lost to history, but the point is, HKS tuned the ever-loving heck out of it. By the time they finished, the M300 was putting out 6 hundo, seriously yoked Japanese hearses. Introducing the Donut Media Buff Horses official t-shirt. Guys, I'm so excited about this little piece of kit because this thing was developed on this show, supported by you guys, and now
It's on a freaking shirt. I asked you guys to comment buff horses in the comment section enough times to make Jesse, so that Jesse couldn't say no to making a shirt. And you know what, guys? We did it. Make sure that you get your buff horses shirt so you can celebrate your milestone. We did this together. Thank you so much.
And on a cold day in February 1983, the driver of the highly tuned Celica ripped around the oval until he maxed out at a blistering 301.25 kmh. Finally, a Japanese car had broken the 300 kmh barrier. For any other tuning company, this might have been a crowning achievement, but for HKS, they were just getting started. Chapter 4. Hero dreams of soup speed. 1984 was a banner year for Hiroyuki Hasegawa and HKS. That year, after more than a decade in the business of making aftermarket turbos, Hasegawa was about to realize his original dream of making a race engine. Enter the HKS 134E. This purpose-built motor for rally and drag racing was completely fabricated by HKS, aside from the Mitsubishi-sourced G54B engine block, which could be found in anything from the Mitsubishi Star Eon to everyone's favorite car, the Plymouth Fire Arrow. This little bad boy four-banger made 276 kin-niku-ba. That means muscular horses in Japan. And that's without a freaking turbo. And that's in 1984. This was at a time when the C4 Corvette was making 205 horsepower with an engine twice the size. HKS was commissioned by Rally Art to put this motor in a Mitsubishi Star Eon for Group B rally racing in 1985. But there was an itty bitty little teeny bit of a problem. The most dominant cars in Group B were all-wheel drive. The Star Eon would need to be converted from rear-wheel drive to all-wheel drive if they ever wanted to stand a chance against these two powerhouse pony boys. So Hasegawa ripped the transfer case out of a Pajero and threw it in the Star Eon. For better weight distribution, the engine was moved to the rear, and the result was the HKS Star Eon D404. But sadly, or probably for the best, Group B was canceled before the HKS Star Eon could race a full season. But you can still find some of these engines in the wild ripping up the drag strip. There's one driven by Felix Vega that can do low sevens and hit 191 miles per hour in the quarter. Chapter 5. On a roll. From the late 80s throughout the 90s, HKS really hit their stride. In 1990, they built an 826 horsepower twin-turbo Supra for the drag strip that later ran a 7.91 quarter mile. It was another first for the company, being the first sub-8-second street car in the world. HKS developed and tested a V12 engine for F1 that made 670 buff horses on pump gas and revved up to 13,000 RPMs. But it never raced. Just the thought of a tuning company entering Formula One was considered laughable at the time, but HKS was definitely accomplished enough to roll with the big dogs. In 1991, HKS completed one of the boldest projects since Gatorade came out with Fierce Scrape. They were like, I'm gonna modify an R32 Skyline. And common sense was like, no, it's such a good car, you can't completely gut the perfect thing. There's no way that you can make it any better. The boys at HKS took a Nissan R32 Skyline and built a new car from the ground up. This time choosing to focus on two things: high power and durability. Those seem like pretty good things to focus on. No box was left unchecked. They upgraded the stock turbos to a twin parallel HKS GT turbo system, installed an HKS V-Cam system with variable valve control, and the GT Sports turbine kit could be adjusted to squeeze out 591 buff-ass Hersey breweries from the RB26. They say don't ruin a good thing, but what if you ruin a good thing by making it a better thing? Is that even still considered ruining it? I don't know. Hit me up in the goddamn comments. Either way, the result was the Zero R. It was the first full car HKS had built from the ground up, and it's truly one of the sickest cars to ever exist. The Zero R proved to be too expensive to justify producing large numbers of, but Nissan did make 10 of them, of which only 4 are still around. I imagine they all got freaking wrapped around poles. Now, you can't talk about HKS and not talk about their involvement with Japanese touring car racing. JTCC was the pinnacle of racing at the time in Japan, and they had very strict guidelines. Many parts were standardized across the board for all teams, but HKS was the only team that built their own freaking engine. R32s dominated Group A racing, not just in Japan, but in other countries like Australia, where the Calsonic R32 first garnered the Godzilla nickname because a bunch of Australian press guys were a little bit racist and not super happy about this Japanese car beating up on all their big V8 dudes. So Skylines were dominating JTCC, and HKS's car was one of the best. I mean, this livery is one of the most iconic liveries of all time. The green, purple, and red on that black body. Green headlights. This car is probably the first time most of us saw the HKS logo. It competed for 2 years in JTCC, took 1 pole position, and took first at Sugo Racing Circuit in 1993. HKS was also involved in time attack. In 1995, an HKS built R33 broke the lap record at Tsukuba with a time of 58.17 seconds. In the early 2000s, they took a Toyota Altezza, what we got as the IS300, tuned it, and broke the record at Tsukuba again with a time of 55.06. HKS came back in 2006 with their tuned Evo 8, the CT230R, one of the fastest Japanese cars ever built. It has 552 horsepower and 470 twerks in a dang Lancer. With all these different types of racing that HKS has been involved with, it's important that we don't forget drifting, which I think is technically not racing, but a motorsport. HKS entered D1 competition in 2002 with their Altezzas and the S15 Hyper Sylvia, nicknamed Kirby for the B logo on the side. HKS is revered as one of the best in drifting, a sport that places a lot of value on performance and reliability, which is kind of exactly what is like the main tenet of their company. HKS has never restricted themselves to one make, one class, or even 4 wheels. In 2016, Hiroyuki Hasegawa, the legend, passed away at the age of 71. He loved everything that went fast and will forever be remembered as a pioneer of aftermarket Japanese tuning. His influence transcends any one type of motorsport, car scene, or enthusiast. I think I speak for everybody who loves these things when I say thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Up to Speed and supporting Donut. I say it all the time, but I can't believe that this is my job and I get to just talk about really cool cars with you guys every week. You want to check out a video that we made on another legendary Japanese tuning company? Check out this episode of Up to Speed on Spoon. We got Mo Powell Baby sticker packs available at the store right now. Get yourself some at donutmedia.com. Follow me on Instagram at James Pumphrey. I love you.